it be noted that all council men and women are present. I need a motion for the approval of the minutes.
Move we approve the minutes as submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? And I need a motion for the approval of the claims properly signed.
I make a motion.
I'll second.
Claims properly signed.
Angela seconded. All in favor? Okay. Under new business this evening, the first thing on the agenda was Glen Burn home resolution, but I do not think there's anybody present to update us on that.
I think he had to go to a funeral, or he
Okay,
was gonna try and attend the funeral, but
okay, all right, so we'll go on. The second thing on the agenda will be to open, we had one bid received for the, grant administration for the revolving funds for the wastewater project. They are the only bid that was received. Mhm. So, just take this under advisement and we will need to vote on that in the December meeting. Receive the grant. Okay. So y'all can keep those, look over those, and then in December we will need to vote on that. Next on the agenda, we have Umball here this evening to discuss our rates that they have done studies and have recommendations on.
Thank you very much. I think everybody knows me. I'm John Seaver, and my colleagues Christina Haran. I've heard of Christina before. Making like school and passing those around. We drew straws, and I don't know if I won or lost, but I'm going to talk to my good side here. I'm going to talk about sewer, and Christina's going to talk about water. But before we do that, and while we're still making the pass-arounds here, I want to bring everyone up to speed. Last time we were here was to adopt the bond ordinance. The bond ordinance was necessary. I'm getting on a roll here. Bond ordinance was necessary to enable you, to give you the legal authority to go forward and issue bans, bond anticipation notes, which are like, it's like a swing loan. Think of it that way, or a construction loan, which allows you to pre-fund, the development cost of the water and sewer projects. Those bans were offered up for bid 2 weeks ago. We had two bidders. Long story short, they both went to the same buyer, I believe, at an interest rate of 1.75% interest, and closing is tomorrow, and the wire will be sent, and the money will hit your account tomorrow. So as of tomorrow, you will have money in the bank. And again, the purpose of that was to pay the development costs of the project, notably to pay your engineers for their work, because that's the line. I'm not throwing them under the bus, that's just the lion's share of where the money's going to go for the project. There we go. Any other questions about the bans? The sewer ban worked out to be, sewer ban turned out to be $413,000. The water bond anticipation note was $330,000. And again, that will hit your account tomorrow. Use that money for paying the development costs. To the extent there's any money left over in that account, you can use it to either reduce the bond issue or to help repay the ban. They'll be useful. We worked a lot on that, Christine. Is there anything you want to offer up that I missed, or that covered?
I think that covers
Okay.
pretty much everything.
A lot of work went into that last 2 minute explanation. But good news is the money's gonna hit your account tomorrow, so it's all good. Talking about sewer, let's turn together if we can to page 3, where you'll find 2 columns. First column is headed Proposed Across-the-Board Rate Increase Phase 1. That would be the rate increase that we would propose or suggest that you consider adopting and undertaking now in anticipation of the project. The purpose of that is to get your head out of, get your head above water, get back to where you need to be without with regard, without respect to any project. Then the second column is what the rate increase might look like after the effects of the project are incorporated in the rate increase. Okay. We've taken into account, rate making is a lot like budgeting, although the terminology is somewhat different. The concepts are the same. You have to figure out how much money you need. Under revenue requirements, you have operation and maintenance expenses of about $644,900. Payment in lieu of taxes, $40,100. Are we making payment in lieu of taxes currently? We need to talk about what payment in lieu of taxes are. Does everybody know payment in lieu of taxes? Everybody know what payment? Now's the time to ask me questions. Everybody know what payment in lieu of taxes are? No. Okay, here we go. Thank you. I'm glad I can explain this, because this is my chance to shine here. It's what this has been on the books for probably 40 years. It goes back to Governor Bowen, or right after Governor Bowen's first attempt at property tax controls. But so here's the theory. If you didn't own municipal water and sewer utilities for the benefit of your system, someone else would. Logically, right? And whoever that someone else that would own the water and sewage works, if it wasn't the city, they'd have to pay property taxes. If you look at your property tax record, some of the largest property taxpayers in most communities are the telephone, the electric, the utility. So why then should municipalities be hurt in their property tax collections because they choose to operate a utility for the benefit of its customers to give them the water and sewer service at the lowest possible rates? So what they allow municipalities to do, and this is nothing new, is they allow you to make an assessment of property taxes against the utilities in an amount that would have been paid had the utilities been privately owned. Okay. This is just the city's portion. Not the schools, not the libraries, not the counties. This is just the cities. So it's a faux payment. I'm trying to think of another nicer word for it, but it's a phantom payment, okay, that you assess against yourself. But it's a very legal and a very appropriate way that communities across the state are using to try to manage the tax caps and try to manage their budgets. Okay? So the assessment would go against the utilities would include it in the rates, and the water and sewer rates would be just yay much higher than they would otherwise be, because part of the increase will be to help fund those payments into their property taxes. Debt service, which is the principal and interest on the outstanding indebtedness, and capital improvement, the capital improvement plan. Your engineers, managers, and advisors came back with a very robust capital improvement program. It is identified on page, bear with me here, you might want to go back. Hey, all the detail behind all these budget assumptions are outlined on the following pages. Replacement and improvement is, what page is that, Christine? Again? Page 8. Let me try to get you turn pages here. But this is a significant item. This is the information we were provided and told to include in rate. These are the capital improvements that are proposed to the sewage works that are proposed to be funded through user rates, not through the bond issue. Okay? So these tend to be the things that don't lend themselves to bidding, or are smaller in amount, or more periodic in nature. And I really can't argue for or against, or even help to explain what some of these things are, and I hope that you know more than I do about what these items are.
I think everybody does.
line relocations, meter replacements, being shared half with water. Looks like we've got some I&I, that's infiltration and inflow, leaky sewers in Shelton Estates, Green Acres, and right-of-way clearing. You can see without a whole lot of effort, we managed to spend $220,000 per year on average through rates. And I would agree with whoever put the list together. These are generally things that are difficult or don't lend themselves to bidding. They're smaller and more piecemeal sorts of things. Okay. So back to page 3. The total budget then, taking all those items into account, to fund that budget would require $1,159,000. The current sewer rates are only generating $929,300. Means the additional revenues required are $229,800. To fund this budget, you need to adjust your rates to generate an additional $229,000, which would require a 25% increase over current rates. You can see the effect on the average bill, or the minimum bill rather. The average bill is currently $24.96, would go up to $31.22. The other page that I would like to call your attention to, and last time I had it flipping around, page 10. It's the colored graph. You'll know it when you see it because it looks different than the rest. This graph shows Linton's current average monthly sewer bill, which is just under $25, and with the proposed increase of 25%, what that average monthly bill would become. And I will let you all judge for yourselves whether or not that would still appear to be a reasonable sewer bill in relation to all of your comparison communities. I would suggest to you that it probably is. In fact, would still appear to be on the low side of average. So that's what I have to present. We're suggesting tonight that you consider a 25% increase across the board in sewer rates. On your timetable, the initial thought was to try to get it done before the end of the year. That will not fund the project. Okay, the project will require a separate increase. One of the things that we talked about was doing a cost of service study, and rather than having an across-the-board increase, go back to square one and actually develop new rates. And we believe that the effect of that will be to have rates which are more fair and proportional, especially more fair to the smaller volume users. Okay? We've made significant headway on that project. We worked hard on it. I guess we need to hear from you. Our thought was that we would ultimately probably wait and adopt those rates until after the project costs were known and bid and the bonds were sold, or around the time the bonds were sold. If we don't, you're going to have to adjust them all later anyway, once those things are known. Or you could, if you really wanted to step out there, you would be, I think, within your legal rights to go ahead and adopt an additional increase on top of the 25% of another 14%, and then true that up later when the project was known. But again, I'm just trying to tell you what your options are. I think what you should, if I could get you pointed, I think what you really need to consider is adopting the 25% rate increase to get your heads above water. Do it now. But we all need to remember that this will not fund the project. The project will require an additional separate increase. Our suggestion would be that we wait until those projects are ready to go forward and be funded. We'll know about the grants, we'll know about the interest rates, we'll know about the bids, and then just do it one time and one time only. But that could be 6 months from now, it could be 9 months, or whenever they're ready to come forward. Because of the time involved, we will need to go ahead and get the cost of service studies perfected so that when those variables are known, all we'll have to do is drop in the bond issue, drop in the project cost, punch a few buttons, and out come the rates. Because there's too much work to do You can only hold bids for 90 or 120 days. We need to have all that ready to go.
Right.
So we will continue to work forward on that. But I don't, that's sort of a back channel or a side path. Any questions on the sewer? If not, I'm gonna sit down and shut up. Yes, please.
I have a question, hypothetically speaking, and if you'll refresh me, these rate increases, is this for us to completely, what we're talking about, redoing our sewage treatment plant, is that what this is for?
No. This is.
This is just to get us where we need to be for our present lines and all
Correct,
that?
correct, with one exception.
Okay.
It will fund those projects that we identified on the capital improvement program. It will allow you to go forward and fund the meter replacements. It will allow you to go forward with some of the I&I
So
projects.
this technically has nothing to do with the sewage treatment plant?
It does not, that is absolutely
Okay.
correct. Yes, yes is the answer. That will be the subject of a second phase future rate increase.
Because that was my question about the sewage treatment plant.
Yes.
Good question.
So, I guess this is so if I understand what you're saying is they need to pass this so they can catch up with the maintenance, the upkeep, and have their heads bobbing back above water.
Correct.
So that the rates can be where they need to be to maintain and keep what we have and do the few improvements that are absolutely necessary and needed and things that are in there.
That is correct.
All right. That's what
But it
I'm
doesn't
saying.
fund the project, so
Right.
no,
And it
FAM,
also allows our rates to be more where they need to be when we go through the grant process again, as far as where they consider you are in fact taking care of helping yourself, and so therefore we need to help you get where you need to be.
And that'll get us off the deduction of being hammered for not having self-help and.
that's right. The first thing, they would look at the rates and they would have a hard time understanding why you needed a grant if your rates weren't already high enough in comparison to your other
Right.
comparable communities.
One of our biggest problems when it comes to getting grants for these projects has been the fact that we have rates that are so very low that we don't qualify for help.
So it's a good problem to have, but it's a problem.
When do we apply for the grant again?
In January.
Yeah, I think it's January
January.
for June announcement date or July?
I thought it was more quickly than
Well,
that. I
they're
thought
down
it
to
was
2 cycles, I
March.
think, next year.
It's-
They're down, I think, to two
Are they down to
cycles
2?
next year, I think.
Okay. It-
It's
In
March.
and yeah, I thought
It's
it
a
was March.
Okay,
Yeah, it's a
alright.
March
That wasn't
deadline
it.
for a board announcement in May.
Yeah.
So I think this will help you, but your rates are still fairly low in comparison to what they think a person should average.
Right,
residential
we're
should
still
pay.
gonna fall on the low end for sure,
But
but
it's
we're
gonna
going to,
be a step
we're
in the
going
right
to
direction.
show that we are now making the improvements and we're taking the steps necessary to help ourselves, so therefore it will make our grant applications much more appealing.
That's right.
Do we have to vote on this tonight, or could we maybe postpone it till January when we get the new administration in? And
That is completely up to you.
that's why I was asking about when the deadline was,
Okay.
if it was March.
Yeah. From our perspective, we know what the answer is. So the timing is all on your end of what you want to try to get accomplished before the end of the year, or what you want to wait till next year.
Do you think there's a reason to wait?
I would just like for John Wilkes to be involved, and this is gonna be his.
Well, okay, as far as from my perspective now,
Okay.
I think, if I can, I would go ahead and do this rate increase, this one.
It's going to help come January
Yeah,
on your
it's going-
grant applications, if you have it in place and you are making the steps forward and moving forward.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, if we're gonna do it, it won't make any difference whether we do it now or we do it in January, Linda, I don't think.
And when will this go in effect?
Well, again, it's all predicated upon,
If we pass it tonight,
all of our work has been timed around having some, having, I can't have first reading, you can have an adoption. We would try to get it in effect in January.
okay.
Okay. January billing cycle.
Yes.
But again, it's totally up to you. The only other thing I would add to your point is whatever rate increase you would have now to just catch you up to even, does help, because whenever the project does come forward, and whatever amount it comes forward, that means that rate increase will have to be a whole lot less. So you've already taken those first steps to get the rates set where they need to be. So are people gonna remember, you folks as the good, kindly folks who tried to help them budget by phasing in the rate increases, or will you be the big dog that have 2 rate increases in a short period of time? I can't answer that question, because there's no answer to that question.
Let me answer it for you.
Well, I don't know that you can win. I don't know that there is a right
I mean,
answer.
and I don't have a problem with 25%, I understand we need to do that to upgrade. But we come back and have another 14% increase all at once. Because we're coming up in 2012, we've already got an ordinance where we automatically have to increase, I believe it was our electric. I think MAC comes in 2012, because instead of going to 6.75 or whatever percent was, we voted to take half of it now, and half of it automatically, I believe, come in 2012. So we're gonna have another rate increase there of like 3 or 4% on the electric portion of it. Now we're gonna hit with the 25% here, and you're saying we're gonna have to come back another 14%. I know what people's gonna say.
Yeah,
All
but
that-
excuse me, that 14% is fictitious
Mhm.
percentage. I mean, that's low, isn't it? That,
I wouldn't say it's fictitious, but it's all based upon estimates.
yeah, on that.
Because we don't have the projects.
Yeah.
The project is just starting to sort of, about as firm as Jell-O, it's coming together, but we don't have permits yet, there's no bids, we don't know what the interest rates are gonna be on the debt, there's a lot of variables and unknowns.
And you don't know if you're gonna receive grants, you
Don't
don't,
know if
you
you're
don't
gonna
know
receive
how
grants,
much,
thank you.
yeah.
But you're not probably gonna receive a grant if you don't have the first one.
Pardon?
If you don't have the first one, there's probably not going to be grants, and
Right.
why don't you help yourself and things they said to us in the
Yeah,
past?
the same problems are
And-
going to exist.
But the timing of the 14% or the second phase rate increase, it's up to you. Yeah, but it has to occur around the time, or contemporaneous with or before you have your sewer project, because the rates, if you were to adopt the 25%, they aren't gonna be high enough to let you go forward and borrow the money to do the sewer project.
I mean, I think we have to do what we have to do, and along those lines, I would like to make a motion that we increase the across-the-board rates by 25% effective January billing cycle.
Can that be done in that time frame? Because there's other procedures. This just allows us to put the ordinance, it doesn't do the whole steps, correct?
So I think the way this would work is that we'd work with the attorneys who would come back at your next council meeting, and you would adopt the ordinance on first reading and set the time and place of the public hearing. Then you'd have a public hearing, and what most communities do is they'll have the public hearing in their old business, and then they'll, as part of their agenda, go ahead and consider the rate ordinance.
Right, so but at this point, we just need to make a motion to accept these rates as far as creating the ordinance to create the new rates.
Let me answer your question with a question, if that's fair. Would you folks meet once a month, right?
Mhm.
Would you be willing to consider a special meeting for 15 minutes to consider the ordinance?
We met last month for about
Okay.
5 minutes.
Okay. So I'll take the answer is yes, but okay. All right. I think if you were able to do that, there's a pretty good chance of getting all this accomplished by the end of the year.
Right.
Other
But-
than that, it may drag into January.
But this evening, the actual motion just is to accept this and to create the ordinances and the proper procedures to move forward.
To move forward with the.
Right, move forward with it.
Okay.
So, is that the motion?
I amend my motion thusly.
I got it, I got the direction. It's good. I know what we're doing.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's sewer, and Christina's gonna talk to you, probably do a much better job than I did, about the water side.
Okay, but before we do that though, is there a second or any other discussion, or y'all, Tony said that all in favor of going ahead with? Anybody opposed? Okay, we'll go on forward then with that.
Was that one opposed, Linda?
No, I didn't get in, I was.
She just
I
was a late, she was a late.
I was a late
A late
bloomer.
bloomer.
And now it's time to talk about the water utility. report is set up very similar to what the sewer report is, so I'll try to hit the high parts and not go into too much detail. Feel free at any point in time, if you have questions, to stop me. I'll be more than happy to get into more further detail or answer any questions that you have. Again, this is set up to where we're looking at an interim increase that would get you to where you need to be today to meet all your requirements. And then in the future, as you move through the actual project financing, you would need to do an additional increase in order to support that financing. So if you look at page 3, this is the revenue and revenue requirements page. This is kind of a summary of everything else, all the detail that is in the page behind it. The first column is the proposed across-the-board increase, and this is what you're looking at currently to consider to do prior to the end of the year, just to get to meeting your current requirements. The first item is your operation and maintenance expenses, and what we've done here is we've looked at what you've spent over the last 12 months and made sure that it was items that were normal. For instance, there are quite a few large repairs and things that you wouldn't do every single year. So all of those items have been analyzed, they've been pulled out of this calculation. And what we're looking at is $748,100 is what it costs to have your people, your electricity, your chemicals, all of those operating items for your water utility. Item number 2 is additional utility receipts tax. This is something that on all your water receipts, you have to pay a tax on your collection. So this is just the additional that you would pay based on an increase that you would do. The third item is payment in lieu of tax. And as John discussed with you, this is just a method to help out your city funds. It's a way for you to collect some property tax dollars that if you didn't own your water utility as a municipality, you would get tax dollars from an outside place that would actually own your utility. So this is calculated to be $44,700, and currently you're paying, I believe, around $25,000 a year. So this is just to get you up to that current tax rate. Item number 4 is an allowance to pay for your currently outstanding debt. And you have a 2007 refunding bond that's outstanding currently. So this is just an average of what your annual payments are on that bond issue. Item number 5 and item number 6, you're going to see in the first column, there are not any numbers there. And the reason for that is these are set up for your new bond issue that you're planning on doing. So there's nothing built into the first column rates. However, in the second column, we've built in what, based on the estimates currently, what you would need in order to support that bond issue. Number 7 is your replacements and improvements. And just like John discussed earlier, that is just an allowance to provide you the ability to maintain and repair your current infrastructure. And if you turn to, I believe it's page 7 or 8. Oh yeah, it's page 8. This is the listing, and this was prepared by your management and also, I think, some engineering consultant may have also helped him with this plan. But as you can see, they've built in a service truck, painting of some water towers, fire hydrant replacements, valve replacements, a lot of things that just get old and worn out through the years, and things that you're not going to go out and issue a long-term financing for. However, you need to keep up on these items. So over the 5 years, the average annual for those 5 years is $333,400. So that's the amount that's been built into the rates here. So with that said, your total annual revenue requirements is $1,329,800. And currently, your collections are just under $1,030,000. So that leaves you an additional revenue required of $300,100. And that calculates out to be a 30% rate increase. It would take an average residential bill from $12.96 to approximately $16.84 for a $3.88 increase. And then we've also applied in doing the across the board, you would also increase your wholesale customers' rates. So that currently is at $2.24, and I would take it up to $2.91. And then reviewing the contracts with the wholesale customers, it states that you can increase their rates as long as it's the same percentage or in the same allocation as the increase to all the other customers. So, with that, you can see then your second column is what your estimated increase would be with the financing. And we're estimating there that you would end up with about a 25% increase. And again, as John mentioned, we're looking at doing the cost of service study and just kind of resetting everything and making sure that all the classes are, their rates are fair and equitable. So that's the reason we haven't shown any increases like for an average customer, because that could very well change. The average customer could be a little less or could be a little more, just based on how the cost of service study,
I think,
what the results are.
I think especially on the water side, because of the large usage and demands from the wholesale customer, I think that will really benefit from the cost of service study. I think that will really help the small volume users by more correctly and appropriately allocating the cost of doing the project to the people who are benefiting from the project.
We cannot raise the wholesale rate without raising the residential, right?
I'm no attorney. I think the general answer would probably be well advised not to. From there, it gets very murky, because we're looking at the contracts, and your staff was created by rounding up all the contracts. It looks like some of them maybe are timed out, where they're still operating under the agreements, but they may not be. I mean, they were 40-year agreements, and some of the 40-year periods have run or almost run, and then we have other situations where the wholesale users are very clearly to us buying far more water than they were ever supposed to buy under the contract. So that's where we need to get the attorneys involved, because it gets a little squishy.
I think throughout the whole process, you're gonna need to sit down with your wholesale customers and negotiate with them, make sure to have some updated agreements with them, especially moving on with the cost of service study, because the way everything is written right now, I don't know that you can necessarily change it with the cost of service basis, because right now it's spelled out that you need to increase at the same percentage as everyone else in the city of Linton's percentage increase. So.
It wouldn't surprise me, excellent point. It wouldn't surprise me if, say, revolving fund loan required you to have contracts with your wholesale customers, because they are such a large part of your revenue. But even if they didn't, it's still a good practice to have
Right.
contracts with your largest customers.
Right.
And from just prior experience that I have, going and increasing their rates and not increasing your customers' rates, a lot of times will cause issues with your wholesale customers. And they provide about 40% of your revenue for your water utility, so you just want to make sure to be upfront and have the communication open. And I think sitting down and talking to them will help you a lot more than increasing their rates, making them angry, making them look for water elsewhere, and then just a big old controversy. So I would highly recommend to sit down and do the proper steps with them.
And the proposed wholesale rate, is that also 30%?
It's a 30% increase, yeah. But for the first phase, it's across the board. So whether you're a large volume user or a small volume user, your rate would go up 30%.
Their rate was $2.24 per thousand. They actually don't run through the blocks like everyone else does, so it's 30% increase to them also. Does anyone have any further questions or comments?
Who all do we sell water to? I know we sell to
Who don't you
Ellis.
sell water to?
You sell water to.
M&M, Duggar.
You sell to Duggar, Pleasantville, Ellis Water, and Ellis Marco, I believe are the 4 customers that you have.
What were those O&M, Duggar, Wastewater, and?
Duggar, Pleasantville,
Don't sell
Ellis
Jason
Water,
Military.
and Ellis Marco.
Do we sell Jason? Well, we do, don't we?
Where's Sean? Is he not?
Thought we
Okay,
did.
he was here.
I don't,
We sell to Jason. For some reason, I know we sell to Jason. but we'll sell to-
maybe part of one of the other entities. I know the contracts are for the Pleasantville, Duggar, Allison, Ellis, Markham. I'm
But
not
it gets a
sure
little,
who they-
not squirrely, it gets a little hard to follow because there's some wheeling going on.
Oh,
When
yeah.
You sell to another customer by way of, they take the water and intentionally wheel it through their system and sell it to somebody else. So I
At
don't
a
know who all
profit,
the,
at a profit.
well, I don't know. Well, yeah.
He's not saying
I'm
that.
not-
Yeah.
I'm not sure who all the end users are.
Exactly.
It wouldn't at all surprise me if you weren't selling money or one of these L&M or someone wasn't selling money, selling water to Jasonville.
And there's one entity, I think it's Pleasantville, that you don't have a contract with, but you sell through another entity.
And that's what I think.
Yeah,
that's Jasonville.
yeah, I'm pretty sure there's something like that, because in talking with Sean, he said, oh, well, we bill them directly, but they actually buy through someone else.
Through the middleman.
Yeah.
I have a question, Mayor.
Okay.
Actually, both proposals, we're gonna raise the rates on both projects, $10 and roughly 14 cents for total projects. Is what it figures out to be. You asked about wholesale rates, I do have a question. Is Rodney still here? See back in the back? Rodney, how much do you guys get? You're on Ellis Water Company board. How much do you guys charge for 4,000 gallons of water?
My water bill for about 6,000 is 30-some bucks a month.
It's got a graph for
Yeah.
that on here
Oh,
too.
it's on there.
I apologize, I failed to mention the graph, it's on page 10. That's yours.
Currently, we are the lowest, and with the raise, it puts us right in the middle, but real comparable to the people in the middle with us, and it goes, we're still not half of the people on the high end.
That's sewage or water?
This is water,
Water,
What page you on?
10.
and
There's,
I don't have a problem myself with my, on this here. These graphs, I understand, but you know what the people in Linton are gonna say to us on this? I don't live in that town, I don't care about
There you
that
go.
town.
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't, and I get that a
You
lot.
know.
I mean, they're gonna say, I live in Linton, I don't live in Petersburg, I don't care what they pay for water.
Well, it's sort of an interesting phenomenon, no matter where we go, you could ask someone on the street and they would swear that they pay the highest utility bills anyway. Now, I don't know why people believe that, because
No,
it's just not true.
yeah, I think that if you ask most of the people in Linton, if they have lived in other areas, they will tell you, no, they love their utility bill. They realize, I think the majority of them realize.
Any further questions?
I mean, I don't know that love your
No.
utility is a good
I've
word
never
for
heard
it.
anyone say that.
But I do think they do recognize that comparatively, we still are low. And comparatively, we still are going to be low. We could double our bill and not get where some of the areas right next to us are, even after the rate hike or, whatever. So,
Sorry.
yes, go ahead, Tony,
I was just gonna say, do you need a motion to accept this proposal to work on the ordinance?
to work on the ordinance.
So I propose that we accept the proposal to work on the ordinance.
Okay, does anyone second it? Charlie. Okay, so you got Tony first,
This is
Charlie
fine.
second. Is everybody in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, Tim, wherever you went, did he leave? He will begin the necessary paperwork and
We'll
to,
get him all the rates and then work with them to get this done. Maybe
all
we
right,
can-
thank you.
We okay with that?
Yes, you
Okay.
may, and thank you very
Good
much
to see everyone again.
for your work and your presentation.
Thank you.
Nice meeting everyone.
Nice to meet you, young
Have a
lady.
good night.
You too. Be careful going home in the storm. Okay.
changed to January 1st.
The next thing up on the agenda is the reports from the department heads. Gary, do you have anything that you need to report? Okay, Rodney? Okay, Troy?
Oh, I might have one or two things. Just real quick, as you all know, we've been busy with the school, and we're still working on that. Just to clarify, there never was a second threat. The rumor mill and stuff, goes around pretty quick these days with cell phones and internet and all that. But there never was a second threat. Coming up, I'll be taking applications for a Citizens Academy. We'll be doing that again, starting the first of the year. So I need to be gearing up now and be releasing something probably next week or so on the paper about getting applications and, things of that. Outside of that, just been fairly, steady with stuff like the school and other things, but fairly quiet, anything major, so.
Okay, well, we appreciate your help with the school. I know the school administration appreciate your presence, and hopefully we'll get this resolved.
I would like to throw that away, or thank you again for Crane. That was extremely nice and helpful for us. And if any of you guys ever go up there, if you give them the same thing and mention to their superiors that how nice that was for us to have them those 2 days. They didn't have to do that. They, when we called, they agreed and had no problem, but there was nothing binding them to do that. And they told me on the phone that they, offered any services they had available, we had our fingertips. So that made the whole situation a lot easier for us and smoother, so.
So everybody remember to, if you have friends and relatives that are a part of that, please do remember to express our appreciation, because it does make it a lot nicer.
And it made everybody, feel more at ease. I mean,
Right.
we done a personal sweep of it, and the staff done it, their sweep, along with law enforcement. We didn't see anything. It's still nice to have that, second layer, embedded in there with dogs that are trained to find items such as that. It just makes you feel that much more confident about the findings,
Right.
or lack thereof in this case.
Have they had any kind of lead on who made the threat? Have they had any luck as far as tracking
It's
it?
under investigation, is all I can say at this time.
Can I ask Troy something? Troy, could I ask you something? I've had a gentleman in my area contact me about the noise ordinance we have. Could you explain, we have a gentleman that is starting his semi-trailer 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's all right if you go to work at 4:30 in the morning, but it's
Yeah,
disturbing the whole neighborhood. Is there
Yeah,
anything we can do about
That's
that?
come from- Well, it's come from Chuck, and we're gonna talk to him.
Thanks, Troy.
He's been on other things, he's secret, he's over, everyone, but anyways, we're going to talk to the driver about that. I checked with Tim on the weight limit. We thought maybe that might be an issue, but, we talked to DOT and seen what we're not semi-experts, so, we called them to see what a tractor weight without a trailer would be. They're telling us it's under what our current limits are, which is what, 4 ton? Or 10 ton, I mean. So, he's under that. The other issue is just gonna be is does he have to start it up, quite that early to, bother neighbors, but there's nothing excessive about it's just the vehicle in nature itself. I mean, there's nothing excessive about it. I mean, it's not got modified pipes or anything like that. It's just the, vehicle being fired up and running in the morning.
Yeah, it's just a semi outside your door at 4:30 in the morning, running for half an hour.
Right, and I'm not a truck driver, and I don't know, and we'll talk to him, but, most, truck drivers I've ever seen, they, for some reason, they start them up and let them run a while before they ever take off, and I don't know if that's got to do with air brake deals or what, so, but we'll find out and see.
They're bringing the operating temperature of the lube oil up to temperature so on.
It could be, I'm not a semi-driver, so I don't know, so, but, he says it has been bugging us.
Those streets are.
Anything else? Thank you.
Tim?
No, we're just gonna work with the leaves, we're gonna try another week this, other permitting. Hopefully, it'll come on down by then. And, just wants the paper and fitting those for the trash paper.
For the holidays, yes. Remind everybody to check your paper for your schedules, because that will be changing to go around the holidays. And you guys have done an excellent job with the leaves. The city has looked nice. You've been on the streets. Thank you for that. Okay. Sean?
Just continuing to move forward with the design of the water and wastewater treatment plant. Been probably the biggest thing we're working on, so discussed this evening, that's the biggest thing got going on.
Hey, Sean, could I ask you, it's either for you or Tim, how long are we letting people that are trying to get trailers permitted in, how long are we giving them to work on them? I've had a trailer in my neighborhood that, they've been working on it for 7 months, they've got utilities on. They've been working on it for 7 months. I asked you about it, I called up and talked to, one of the girls, and they said they'd asked you about it, and you said that, it was a decision that they had made with Tom. Well, 7 months is,
Yeah, I'm not sure
how
what
long
you're
are we
talking
giving them?
about. I'm not
Okay.
sure what you're talking about, I guess.
Okay.
I can talk
since-
to you
Yeah, we
afterwards.
need
Yeah.
to name, so that it can be checked on, so that the name can be
Yeah, I'm not aware
confidential,
of it.
because that is too long, so we need to be aware. That's one that's, oh, really?
He knows the name.
Okay, well, we need to do something that's too.
Well, they said, Tom, well, Tom's been dead.
Linda can
Yeah,
tell you the
almost
name of, I can't remember their name, they live in Jasonville, the owner does.
Okay,
Linda,
What?
I'll ask her after the
Okay.
meeting
yeah.
what it goes to.
Okay, is there anybody,
Mayor,
yes?
just one other thing I forgot to mention, and just because current events, but anytime you get a large temperature change, then winds start to pick up, weather starts to turn nasty, and we get a lot of questions this at the PD and at call-in, so just to reiterate, we do not set off the sirens under a watch, which a watch, just to clarify, is just conditions may be right for a tornado. The only time we set the sirens off is for a warning in our area, which would mean Greene County, because those things are subject to change direction and things of that nature. So we will set them off for a warning, which a warning means that one has been either spotted on ground or notified to us by National Weather Service. And then that's when we set the sirens off, just to clarify. So.
Okay. Is there anybody else that has any comments or issues? Okay, I would like to remind everybody that this Friday, the Linton Miners will be in the semi-state, and we should be proud of all of our young people, and on Friday, we should all be in our red and blue to support them and go out and cheer them on, so that's a good thing. We have a lot of nice young men and women involved in that, and we should be very proud of them and show our support. So everybody, it is Red and Blue Day on Friday. Okay.
I'll make the motion, we
Motion.
adjourn.
I second it.
All in favor?